Welcome to Generation Gap. I'm your host, Taylor J., and this week's topic discussion is the portrayal of African Americans and how it has changed over time. At this time, we will go to Allison with the field report.
Hi guys, Allison Schumacher here. We are at the Hub and we are at the Black Lives Matter event, and we're going to be talking to some IUP students about what their views are on Black History Month. Let's see what they have to say. Hi guys, I'm here talking to Terrence, a member at the Black Lives Matter event. Terrence, how do you feel African Americans are viewed in today's society?
Well, in today's society, I feel it depends on who you're talking to or who you ask. If you look at the media, you get mixed views of African Americans on one light. It's Black History Month, so we celebrate the achievements and all the things that Black people have been able to accomplish. Yeah. And then on the other hand, you see in the media, you sometimes portray in a negative light.
Yes.
You see the stereotypes and negative stereotypes, negative statistics, which in some ways are true, but in a lot of other ways, we have Black people that are doing positive things and great things, and great things are happening in our lives.
Definitely. And how do you think that stereotypes against African Americans are perpetuated or reinforced in our culture?
If you look at the news, you look at the news media, you look at people who may not be exposed to Black people or to African Americans in our communities, where they only view of a Black person is what they see on TV, what they see in the music videos, what they see on the news. And so until you actually get out and get to know someone outside of yourself or outside of your culture, you truly won't know how this person truly is.
Definitely. And last question, hold on. What changes would you like to see in society today regarding race?
Man,
it's a loaded question.
Where should I begin?
Yeah.
I look at just at this campus right now, regarding race, I would like to see changes in education. I would like to see more opportunities for persons from despite their racial background, from disadvantaged backgrounds, to have an opportunity at higher education.
Yes.
Many people can't afford to go to college. Many people are underprivileged into the fact where they may not have a quality education in their high school, so that gives them it doesn't give them the ability to be able to go to college. So I would like to see I guess more Black people have a chance at higher education. Because when you get that knowledge, it takes you a long way.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time, Terrence. Back to you, Taylor.
Thanks, Allison. At this time now, I'm going to have my panel introduce themselves, starting from my far left to right.
Hi, my name is Tashay. I'm a senior here at IUP. I'm a double major in psychology and child-family relations.
Hi, I'm Dr. Carolyn Princess. I'm the Inclusion and Multicultural Programming Specialist and Director of the African American Culture Center at IUP.
Hi, my name is Savannah. I am a junior here at IUP, and I am a dual back in English and economics.
Great, thank you. Now for our first question, I would like to know, do you identify as African American or Black? And could you explain your answer?
Okay, so me personally, I identify as Black, and I identify as Black because I don't really know my heritage, but I know when I say Black, I'm identifying with my culture. Black is a culture, so that's why I identify as Black.
I actually use African American. I'm an African descendant, and I was born and raised in America. I do not use the word Black because I don't want you to focus on my color. I want you to focus on who I am, and I am an African American.
I've always used the term Black when I describe myself. My family has no idea where we came from, just like you did, Taishay. And my family's always been very defensive of that culture when I was growing up. So I appreciate when white people don't know, they automatically revert to African American. I think that's very respectful, but if they're friends of mine, I ask them to use the term Black.
Do you think that the term African American is a term that was given to us?
I would say yes. I would say we were given it because if you go back to history, the Africans were brought to America, so let's give them something to identify so they will feel proud to be an American. So I'm African American, and you still proud American because American is in your title. I don't think we gave ourselves that name.
I think African American has become the politically correct term and the academically correct term, and for good reason, because there are people who choose to identify as either term. But I think that at some point it can become intrusive if you're forcing that upon someone who would prefer the term black. When I was in 8th grade, I actually lost points on a history project because I referred to Rosa Parks as black rather than African American. And it frosted my black father, who marched into my teacher and said, "Explain to me one more time why my black daughter can't refer to Rosa Parks as black." And the reason somewhat made sense. It's that that's not the academically correct term, but that was such a part of our culture, and that was how my parents chose to identify me and how I chose to identify. I was really torn, and that was probably the first time I was awakened to the problem with the clashing of those two terms.
Can I chime in? Like she said, black, like the paper thing, like back in the day they had signs that say no blacks allowed. So you started to identify us as black, just publicized it, and once we reclaimed it as our culture, or to identify ourselves, it becomes a problem. I feel like once we reclaim things, it becomes a problem. When you call us black, there's no problem. But when we call ourselves black, it becomes a problem. But you called us it first.
Well, I think that just going back in the day, black was a term that folks used to signify something negative. And I think you had those nationalists, black nationalists. You had folks trying to decide what are we. And so to give us something to claim for ourselves, instead of focusing on using black to cut us down, I think you had folks saying that we are Africans. We are Africans. And we are Americans. And so we're African Americans. And so black was given to us. We made African American for us, as opposed to someone giving it to it. And I guess one of the things I can think of is when I first went to Africa, and they gave me a name, and I went home and I told my mother, and I said, "You guess what? They gave me a name," and she said, "Good." And I said, "Why? Why do you say that?" And she said, "Because your name is a slave name. Now you've earned your rightful name." And so that's when that was that whole movement when people were talking about being African American without the hyphen. I'm not hyphen either.
Gotcha. I think it's for that reason that my parents chose not to use that term, because they made it very clear. We have no idea where my family came from, and they didn't keep terribly good records of where they shipped people in from when they needed free labor. So my parents did it more as a respect thing of, you don't know which culture it is, and there are people who truly are from Africa and have those roots and cherish those roots, whereas ours are strictly American. And we identified almost exclusively with black culture rather than African culture.
Is there hope for the next generation in terms of identity and knowing where they come from?
I think that there is hope, but I think that it's going to require some very uncomfortable conversations to occur. We have more multicultural children in the United States than ever. I think we're at about 2 billion, not 2 billion, 2 million multicultural children in the United States. And what we
2%.
have to...
2%.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us. And I think that what we're going to have to do is redefine black not as a negative, but as and not even as a marker, but we're going to have to use it more as a term of historical tie. Because when I was growing up, my family was very defensive of the term black, even though my mother is white. Me and all my siblings identify as black. And I think that in order to preserve that, we have to defend that blackness is not an amount of money you make. Blackness is not the shoes you wear. Blackness is how you feel in here, how you identify culturally, how you identify historically, where your roots lie. You know what I mean? And I think that's the conversation we're gonna have to have.
At this time, we're gonna take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Hello. Before we go to break, here's a trivia question. What major U.S. city elected the first African-American mayor in 1967? Was it A, Cleveland, B, New Orleans, C, Atlanta, or D, New York? Find out when we come back.
It's hard to explain. It just became home. There are hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes and faculty that really get to know you. Amazing internships and everywhere, programs that help to find a job that is right for you. It's what IUP is about, a commitment to your success. See it for yourself. Visit us, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
And welcome back. If you answered A, Cleveland, then you are correct. Back to you, Taylor.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's go back to Allison out in the field.
Hi guys, I'm here with
Julian.
And we are talking, he was one of the people that was performing actually at the Black Lives Matter event. Julian, how do you feel African Americans are viewed in today's society?
I think there's a lot of different views. There's good views, there's bad views, but I think the view that's a problem right now, the stereotypical views of African Americans that are getting young individuals locked up, killed, and not cared for the way they should be cared for. That's what this event was about. This was about those who were misrepresented in the media, in culture, by people who claim not to be racist but still have these stigmas against us. This is for them to open their eyes, hopefully a couple of those people were a part of this event in the audience, know. And if this was recorded, I hope it gets on YouTube, around. People need to really hear about this, huh?
And how do you think that stereotypes against African Americans are perpetuated or reinforced in society today?
Perpetuated. Everything travels through the media, man. I'm a communication major. I know all about the socioeconomics about it, man. It's all about getting people to believe one thing, It's propaganda, but we don't want to use that word because it's too heavy.
Yeah.
But blacks are misrepresented in the media along with other races, other genders, and it's got to stop.
And what changes would you like to see in society regarding race?
Regarding race, I think we should respect each other's culture. Skin is not something that you should be blind to because that is important. Ethnicity, race, that's important, but we need to be respectful about it. That's the important thing. All right, we need to love and understand that we're all individuals. All right, we all come from different backgrounds. It's not about black versus white. It's about black and white coming together.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time. Back to you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. So right before the break, I asked, is there hope for the next generation in terms of knowing their identity and their roots? At this time, I would like for Dr. Princess to chime in a little bit and give us some input on that question.
I think there is hope. There's times when I think there's not hope because of the direction I see the way the young people are going. But you also have to remember that we've got a system. We've got a system where we use categories that we hide who we are. You've got all these different, it used to be black, white, Hispanic. Now you've got multiracial, and you've got a whole bunch of categories that the census has put out there. However, if you look back in history, that we've always had multiracial. Okay, but there was this one rule thing, this rule about having a drop of certain blood from your mother that you were black. Okay, so but then what happened was you have these black intellectual, me included. So there's that. That's why I know that there's hope, because as long as you have people out there teaching, as long as you have. We're teaching who we are. As long as we can do that, we will. The problem is when we have these intellectual folks, black intellectual, politicians, all these people who don't give back to the community, okay? So that's when we'll lose hope. However, when you have folks like me and Afro-American Cultural Centers and my colleagues, that we're constantly working with the young people, trying to help them to understand who they are, to appreciate who you are. And even things like this, that question you raised about whether you want to be black or African American, to understand those things, you have to teach. You have to continue to teach. You can't drop the ball. So there is hope. There's hope because there's always going to be black people. There's always going to be multiracial people. Multiracial people are going to talk about those two bicultures. You're always going to do that. So while you may have the media and everybody telling people what to think and stuff, I think that there's enough people out there that's teaching. You know, you've got Al Sharpton, you got Cornell West, you got all these people in higher education. Then you got people in business, and you got me who talks to Tasha, who comes into my office for 15 minutes, and she says she stays for an hour. So as long as you have the educators out there, there's hope. We have to teach. That's how the generations, to me, this is my interpretation. That's how the generation keep going forward, is that you teach each generation. You learn from the past. You don't just let it go.
Can I chime in? I agree with Dr. Princess about the each one teach one, because you have to pass on the torch. Knowledge is a gift, and you have to share that gift by passing it on to the people that's under you. But so like you said, Al Sharpton, me and Savannah, we both cringe. We don't feel like that he's a great representation of our people. Because who appointed him as a representation of our people?
Him. No one elected him. And he actually just got hit with a huge lawsuit, right? He and CNN got hit with a huge racial discrimination lawsuit, correct?
Yes.
And what do you
But you have to understand, but you're a leader. You're a leader too. You're a leader. You can be a leader. As long as you have people talking about it, the problem comes is when you don't talk. So Al Sharpton may be saying things that we don't like. Nobody appointed him a leader. He's not a leader. Everybody is a leader.
He's not a leader?
He's everybody that's out there talking about how to uplift the race is a leader. The point is when you don't talk.
Do you think he's doing his job in uplifting the race, though?
No, he is not doing his job uplifting our race. Let's talk about the term sellout. He's a sellout, and I don't mean that saying like a sellout.
Oh no, I thought you called somebody else's name.
No, I said let's talk about the term sellout. I consider him a sellout because if you're going to uplift your people, you got to be able to identify with your people at all times. And not only are you identifying them, you're going to defend them no matter what. Like, for example, somebody talks about your mom, you're going to defend her no matter what. It has to be the same thing with your people. Not if somebody throws you a couple bucks, oh, I'm going to just say this ain't so no more. That's not real. That's considered a sellout. That's what a sellout is when you don't defend something over some materialistic thing or monetary things. That's considered a sellout.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I agree with that. I mean, that's what you do. But I'm saying the problem is the silence. And the other part, I just called his name as one example because that just came to my mind, that I know that he's out there speaking to the people, okay? But then you've got other people too. You've got Cornell West, you got Michael Dyson, you got Melissa Harris Perry. You got a lot of people. The problem is their voices is not loud enough.
These are great ideas, but let's take a quick break from all the action around here, and also let's see what ruffles Maurice's feathers this week.
Welcome to Ruffles My Feathers. I'm Maurice, and here's what has been ruffling my feathers lately. Black History Month is 1 month, and it's the shortest month of the year. I did read why it was in February. However, if Black History Month is only going to be 1 month, it could have at least been a month with 31 days. Also, Black History Month is the same month during all these major events. Events taking place during February this year included NBA All-Star Weekend, Valentine's Day, the Oscars, the Grammys, President's Day, and the Super Bowl. This causes Black History Month to just appear as the backdrop for all these events. Last but not least, Black History Month needs to be taken seriously again. It seems like it hasn't been as perceived as important as it used to be. That's probably because it's overshadowed by everything else. That's all we have for today. I'm Maurice Daniels, and this is what ruffles my feathers. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks, Maurice. Now, before we go back to our panel, let's go to Allison one last time and see what's going on out in the field.
Hi guys, I'm here today with Hannah, who is one of the producers of this event. Hannah, how do you feel African Americans are viewed in today's society?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question. African Americans are viewed in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, I think because the representation that we get in mainstream media and things like that aren't very broad, then we're getting a really pigeonholed view of the African Americans. And then when they are seen, it's typically in a negative light. So we see a lot of criminality and things like that. So
yeah, definitely. And how do you think that stereotypes against African Americans are perpetuated or reinforced in our culture?
all the time. I mean, stereotypes are how we make sense of the world. So
Yeah.
if we, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but that's how we compartmentalize the people that we're understanding. So negative stereotypes about African Americans are perpetuated not only by people who aren't African American, but also people who are African American. So we see this propensity to this violent, strong kind of personality from African Americans. I think that can be really negative, but at the same time it can be reinforced by even the community itself. So
Yeah, definitely. And what changes would you like to see in society regarding race?
Oh goodness, you guys are.
Yeah, these are a loaded questions.
Really hard questions. Changes about race. I'd like for race to be talked about, first of all. I think that it's not talked about enough. I know that I'm on my soapbox all the time. I'm always talking about race, and people are like, we've had enough,
Yeah.
Stop bringing up the past. But I think that race does need to be talked about in order for us to move on from it. I don't know if we can actually get a post-racist society, but I think that
we can always get better.
We can always get better. And once we start hearing other people's narratives, when we hear other people's stories, and events like this happen tonight where people are able to share how they feel, and people be able to see that this is a shared experience and an individual experience, then those changes and those mindsets and those perspectives get to change, and then that worldview broadens.
Definitely. Bringing everyone together.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We did an amazing job tonight.
Thank
you so much. Back to you, Taylor.
Thanks, Allison. Now back to our panel. The next question I want to ask is, how much of an influence do you think that our media consumption has over our decisions and our behaviors?
Too much. We're in a pretty sad state right now. I went to the 6 o'clock series that was hosted by Robert Townsend, and he's neck deep in it. This is what he does. He's a director, actor, screenwriter, producer. He's all up in it. And what he's discovered in the media is that the state of the black man in the media is dismal. There are people making big money convincing media consumers that black men are gangsters, good for nothing, and when they come into something, they don't know what to do with it, so they just go crazy materialistic, buy every shoe they can think of, and just have no sense. On the whole, they portray black men as having no sense. And our women, frankly, are not much better. Slightly better, but not by much. Not only do women have a problem in the media, black folks have a problem in the media. So when you put them together, we're in a rough place. And I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done on a lot of different people's parts.
I just want to touch on the portrayal of a black woman. BET, B and Mary Jane. That show, the media portrays the black woman, if she's successful, she's bitter, she can't get a man, she can't have family, she has no way of building her legacy so that her offspring can take over. She just did all this work for nothing so she can be alone. And that's like telling me if I get this far, this is how I'm gonna end up, bitter and alone and an angry black woman, the quote unquote image of an angry black woman.
Yeah. That's what they feed us.
That's what they feed us, but that's not the goal to get successful and become an angry black woman. And almost every media that portrays a successful black woman, she's angry. Even in what was it? I don't know if it was Think Like a Man, a successful woman. She's or they make us bitter and super picky and stupid.
Or your other.
But that's what you're taught, though. That's what they teach you. You know, if you're a black woman and you have a very assertive in what you do, the first thing they do is say, oh, she's aggressive, she's angry, or she's frustrated. I'm not frustrated. I just want to help make a difference with something. But you have to remember this too, guys. This is what I think, okay? What I think, you have to remember this. I remember when I was in school, when I was working on my doctorate, one of the professors had us read this book. It's called 4 Reasons to Eliminate TV, okay? Because what happens is that people are telling you what to think, how to eat. And you have to remember, there's a camera. That camera is focused in on something. But we have to teach our people that, just not to watch TV indiscretionally and just say, this is the TV. The media is only going to put out there what you give them, but you got to be able to think critical.
That's you said that, Dr. Princess. That makes me think about something that, as far as young African American women in particular, in terms of our self-esteem, in terms of our body image, and even myself. I had a lot of trouble being comfortable with my complexion growing up. And it's funny, it was taught to me.
Yes.
Do you feel that self-hate is something that is taught to us from a very young age without us knowing?
Yes.
Yes.
But I think we know about it now. And I think that
Definitely.
we're starting to be more aware of how flagrant that image is. It is everywhere and it's pervasive. And I think once we've started to awaken people to it, I don't think we can take it much longer. Even in our children's shows, the live action ones and the animated ones, we're doing better with small children of color. We're getting better, but they still have, even the Little Mermaid one has pink hair, right? We don't have young, positive children with natural hair, you know, in their natural setting, being positive, you know what I mean? And even on...
But they're trying to sell.
They are, and
That's
I think
it. It's
that's
all about
the
a
problem.
dollar.
That's a huge problem, and it goes back to you are a product of your environment.
It's so true.
And one of my closest mentors brought to the attention of me, like, I have 4 siblings, but if you compare me to my siblings, you wouldn't think we're related because of the path that I took. But if you look at the environment that I created for myself, it's totally different from theirs. Like, I was always around college-educated people. I was always involved in some type of organization that was like benefiting the community or in some type of sports. My siblings, on the other hand, not so lucky to have been able to build that community. And look, the products are different. My brother's in jail. I'm in college. My younger sister's under me. She has 4 kids. And thankfully enough, I was able to get my younger sister to finish high school and get my other younger sister to go to college.
It gives them a false reality.
And I think there's a strong backlash against that going on now. We were talking earlier about, you know, J. Cole and Kendrick starting to call out other people saying, you know, we can't continue to make money doing something that is killing our community. And they've been very vocal about it. You know, you guys made it out the hood, like you did it, and now you're accepting money to convince the next generation of men coming up to not get out. And I think that
The media is not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
Okay, so then that means it's on us. That's where we have to take the responsibility and realize
Who's we?
We, the parents, the teachers, the educated, we have to tell them what they're doing. And you know, I was in a movie this summer, and it just came to me right then and there when I saw it. I spent long hours, I thought it was disgusting, but I spent long hours in that movie. You know, they go from 8 o'clock in the morning, almost 8 o'clock the next day. And the thing that I recognized then is what I always teach, is that that camera is on you and is telling you what to think. Sorry.
That just made me think of a quick quote. My friend, he always said to me, if you cannot read well, you cannot write well. If you cannot write well, you cannot think well. If you cannot think well, someone else will do the thinking for you.
That's right.
It's so true. And so they prey on the people who won't think. And
Right.
they tell them, you know, this is who you are, this is the image you want, and this is who you're going to be. And that's where we find the state of a lot of our media and the influence that media has on our young generations.
Let's take one last commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
And before we go to our next break, here's another trivia question. What is the name of the first African American who served on the U.S. Supreme Court? Was it A, Colin Powell, B, Thurgood Marshall, C, Barack Obama, or D, Malcolm X? Find out when we come back.
Students in communications media at Indiana University of Pennsylvania can focus on a variety of areas, including media promotions. Our promotions students learn their skills by working in a hands-on environment, gaining real-world experience. They learn how to use media to promote, produce, and manage events, and how media organizations operate. They create promotional campaigns and help clients pitch their services, products, and events. With excellent classes led by experienced teachers, the Communications Media Department at IUP is perfect for students interested in media promotions.
Welcome back. If you answered B, Thurgood Marshall, you are correct. And once again, back to you, Taylor.
Welcome back. This week's topic of discussion was the portrayal of African Americans and how it has changed over time. We've had a great panel, and at this time I would like to get some last insights from our panel. My first question would have to be, what advice would you give a young adult in terms of their identity and basically being content with who they are?
I think you gotta read. You have to read. It is so important. The media will tell you what to think. Reading will teach you how to think. And I think that that was one of the most important things in my life. This past Christmas break, I sat down and read the entirety of Souls of Black Folks. And I think I know, it's a great book. And I think that what it highlights is the way that things have changed, and it allows you to form your own thoughts rather than telling you these are your thoughts. Mm-hmm. So that would be my biggest thing. Read.
And I would say reading is one of the things you have to do too. But I would say let it come from the inside. Love yourself. Love who you are. Be proud of who you are. You're beautiful. You're human. You're beautiful. You know what I mean? So I think if you start with that and then try to be the best at what you do, always try to be the best. Achieve. Be an achiever. Don't settle for less. You know. So always strive to be the best and make sure it comes from the inside and love yourself. And I hate to say this is going to sound like a cliche, guys.
Sorry, go ahead.
Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Just love your
That's
person.
the
Love
golden
you.
rule. Treat people how you want to be
Love
treated.
yourself, you know?
Why is that cliche? That's from in here.
You know?
Treat people how you want to be
So
treated.
this is what I think, and that's how, if we do that and respect your health, and not have, like I had a student in my office who said something to the effect that, and this is what get me, a student in my office in the African American Cultural Center, works in the African American Cultural Center, a young man, very stout young man, and I listened to the FBI director who said that if they saw two African American men on a corner, and I saw two white men on the corner, and they had the same thing on, that the police would be afraid, they would approach the African American men differently than they would the whites, okay? So this young man said, I would be afraid of them too. So I said, then that's when I said about hope. I said, how do I teach others to respect you? So we've got to the point where we're saying, I'm afraid of my people. You know? I'm
That's
not
scarier yet, because then we don't defend each other. We don't ride for each other. And
I'll
this
be
movement's not going to go
defending.
anywhere until we're unified.
Right, and you gotta, that's like mind-blowing. You work in an office that's designed.
At this time, I would like to thank my wonderful panel for participating. We had a great conversation today, and we've heard a lot of great opinions. I would also like to thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in to next week's episode of Generation Gap.